Mealworm Inquiry Project by Ariana Martinez Lagunas. The process. So this whole process began when I had to do an interactive experiment using mealworms. So on March 17 of 2022, like about 6ish in the afternoon, I headed to my local PetSmart. That is literally only about 10 to 15 minutes, give or take, away from my house. When I walked in, I asked one of the staff members if they could direct me to where the mealworms were at. And I was actually confused and a little bit surprised that they were kept inside like a mini fridge. I did open the container. They only had the 50 count. And when I opened the container, the lid, I noticed that there was no movement. And I honestly thought they were dead at the beginning. Because once again, there was absolutely no movement and I thought they had frozen. But the staff member told me that they weren't frozen, that they were very much alive, and so I purchased them. After I purchased them, I had to run a small errand, and then I went home. And when I went home, unfortunately I forgot about them and left them in my car. But an hour later, I did remember about them, so I went to go grab them. And I did notice that, I guess, since they were all warmed up now, there was a lot of movement. They were moving, they were more active. So I guess they are more active when they are in warmer temperatures rather than cold ones. So the first experiment that I decided to conduct was what type of food do they prefer? And since I love apples, I was rooting for apples. However, when I placed some mealworms on a plate, I placed bananas and apples. After a while, I did tend to notice. Well, in the beginning, I was like, since one of them, went straight for the banana. But then as weeks went by, I did notice that in the end, the apples were the ones that were really getting or were being eaten the most. So yes, they do tend to like apples more in my case. And even as but then again, once there was like some beetles mixed with some mealworms, I did tend to notice that they were eating from both. So that is something that kind of confused me a little bit, but they do prefer apples for sure. The second experiment that I decided to conduct was if they prefer wet or dry conditions, or, and I forgot to phrase this, if they would be more active in wet or dry conditions. So I damped a paper towel with water, and then the other one I kept dry, and I put some mealworms down. I did notice in the beginning that one of them, literally the middle photo, one of them stirred away from the group. So I was like, maybe it's looking for dry, a dry setting. But then I noticed that after a while, the ones that were placed in the wet damp paper towel, they were moving quite a lot. So I did conclude or came to the conclusion that they are more active when they are in the wet settings, wet conditions, and maybe it's the fact that they might not like the wet conditions, so maybe that's what makes them a little bit more active, but they are more active during wet conditions. The third and last experiment that I did decide to conduct was if they would transition faster into beetles in darker light settings. My hypothesis was that they would turn in light, since everybody needs light to grow, but my hypothesis was wrong. In the middle photo, I did place some mealworms in the container that they originally came in, and I put it inside a shoebox that of course had holes for them to breathe in air to come in and out. And I closed the shoebox, and it was like pitch dark. the shoebox had two little holes, and when I would look, it would be like pitch dark. And then I placed one in this little small container, and I did end up noticing that the mealworms that were kept in the dark, they transition faster than the ones that were kept in light. So in conclusion, mealworms transition faster if they are kept in dark settings. And that was my presentation on my beetles, and I didn't really like this experiment, but I did enjoy it a bit. The only reason why I didn't like it is because worms make me squirm. But I guess I did tend to like get used to them, and I ended up feeding them to my mom's chickens. So yeah, thank you.